Hello, everybody. It's your boy Dre Day every day, and today I'm with my co-host,
Bon Bon.
No 623.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, nah. So today we're going to talk about the TV series, or the adapted TV series, The Last of Us, which was a PlayStation original, well, PlayStation exclusive, initially released in 2013. And it was kind of like right on time with the PlayStation 4, so they did it remastered immediately, turned into a hit game, possibly, from my opinion, the greatest emotional storytelling in video game history. And they turned it into a TV show that is very, very good to a lot of people, but not sure if everyone loved it, but it's definitely was a success for the people it was intended to reach.
Mhm.
And I will kind of be spearheading this because I'm the one who has beat The Last of Us over 10 times, and I watched the show, and I have the deep knowledge of the Lord. The Last of Us, and for context, The Last of Us 2 is my very favorite video game of all time, and The Last of Us 1 is somewhere in the top 10. So definitely one of my favorite series. So
Okay.
I'm gonna start my timer. So we can start with however you want to start.
So, and just go with me here because I was really, really confused. I don't know what episode it was necessarily, but it was the gay couple, and
Okay.
one of them was sleeping, and he heard some commotion outside, and he
Mhm.
realized that something was breaching the gate. I don't know if it was other people or if it was like infected monsters or something.
Right.
Um, and so his husband was out there trying to contain everything, and he ended up getting hurt, didn't he?
Yeah. So the guy who's from the game's name is Bill. Well,
Okay.
both of them are actually from the game, and this was the episode that is least like the game. They kind of went into a because in the game, Bill has survived, and oh, and for context for anybody, it's going to be major spoilers to the game and the show. If just for if you haven't seen any or want to play any, but Frank is deceased, and Bill is alive, and they didn't show if Bill died, but yeah. So the guy, honestly, Bill was the one with the beard and the one who had the house, and
That's the one with the
Frank was the
that's the one with the brown hair.
yeah,
Okay.
and then
So
and
what
then
confused me about that is I'm pretty sure we saw him die on that table, but then the next episode they did like a whole montage of them growing old together.
yeah, well, it was actually the same episode.
Oh,
I think they just kind of did the fast forward thing.
okay. But like
Yeah,
he did die, didn't he?
at the end of the episode, I think they had it to where they both passed away or something like that.
Right.
But
So
he,
that's the part that confused me because I was like, I thought we saw him die on that table, and then they did like a whole skip forward, and then both of them were there, and then they died together in the end. But then I was like, I thought he was already gone.
yeah, yeah, nah. So that was basically, I guess, supposed to be showing that the guy doctored him back to life, but he did take like a gunshot wound to the stomach,
Okay.
which a lot of Last of Us peers that played the game
Mhm.
were pretty furious with that episode for for a multitude of reasons because they added because in the game what ends up happening is you find a house because you're going through Bill's booby trap town
Mhm.
and you see it, and Joel and Bill begins to have a dispute. And then in the middle of this dispute, they see a body hanging from the ceiling who had what is that I'm looking for, from a noose. They basically hung himself. And then Bill kind of looks over amidst the argument and he's like, Frank, he's like, this is the only guy that will wear a suit like that, or wear a shirt like that.
Mhm.
And in the garage of that same sequence, they found a letter to where Frank was pretty much done with Bill. So this episode, they kind of suggested that Bill could have been gay, but in the actual show, they just came out and said that he was gay. They didn't suggest that they had been in a relationship. So it was room to play with it, but it's not from the game. So a lot of the stuff in that episode was just completely made up.
Mm.
And then on top of that, when Bill got shot, he has an entire booby trap town. So which will let you know he's a tactical person, and no tactical person will be out wide open in the street shooting at multiple people with guns, leaving himself wide open. So it was a lot of misfiring. The actual the social media popular discussion, they're trying to say, oh well, people don't like it because it has the same sex relationship. It's not that. It's like you've changed the nature of the character. Well, you not necessarily change. You've taken a skill set that he had in the game and made him different, and it's like we don't kind of recognize Bill to be this non-skilled, So, but yeah, it was a lot of made up stuff. There's stuff confused me in that episode because that neighborhood looked really nice.
I did.
Yeah, it's like this is supposed to be a rundown. It looked like somewhere we could go today.
Mm.
you know. So that was another thing that was confusing.
Okay, so then apart from that, how did
Mm.
you feel about the TV series overall, as far as it matching with the game?
Oh, it ran about I'm gonna say it ran about 80 to 85% accurate to the game.
Mm.
We're talking about I say about 75 because they added a few things, but for the most, like they never showed Ellie's mom in the game. But
Mhm.
for the most part, a lot of that stuff was 100% accurate to the game. So yeah, I'm definitely excited for season two. But let me see. It's going back like that. I think that first episode was like one of one. Like the first that episode I believe was like a hour and seemed like it was over an hour. But that very first episode was kind of like the first 2 to 3 hours of the game, almost to an exact.
Mhm.
The only things that they did take out were like the extended shooting sequences and fighting the multiple. But that was one thing that I didn't like is that they didn't. I always watch the after special where the director talks about, well, you don't fight the clickers here because this is not gameplay.
Mhm.
But what I was thinking as a because I consume some TV too is like you're not giving people a real understanding of how dangerous this world is.
Mm.
Because they met a lot of people that were not infected, and in the game, you have regular people who are very hostile because they're unsure because the stages of infection, you have infected and then you turn into a runner. That's why you still look like a human, but you have like a twitch to you and
Okay.
you can't speak. If you, the episode with the boy and his little brother, I don't know if
I don't think I saw that.
you didn't saw that. Oh yeah, that was one of the better episodes. That's the tearjerker episode. But you have a twitch, but then the next one is you're called a stalker, to where now your face is beginning to morph, and then you kind of walk around and you actually try to sneak up on your prey. Then you have the clicker, which is where you're full on infected, and you make the. It sounds like a door that needs WD-40
Hmm.
opening, and then you have the bloater where you're really really big. It was the one episode where the thing comes out the ground and he's really huge. He can take pieces off his body and throw it
Okay.
and and things of that nature. But yeah, they didn't do a good job of really showing how dangerous the world is. It made it feel more civilized than dangerous. That was what my take was.
Got you. So I did see the episode where is it Ellie and Joel and there
Yeah.
was a lady and they were sneaking through a building and Ellie didn't understand that you need to be really quiet and it's not playtime right now. And
Mm-hmm.
she ended up, I don't know, she ended up tripping over something or stepping on something and she attracted one of the things. I think it might have been a stalker.
Okay.
Still kind of looked like a person, but he looked like he was listening for them.
Listening for them. Possibly.
I don't know.
Oh, so you started from the beginning. That lady had to been Tess.
Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
saw that episode and then that next one with the Joel and Frank. With no, Bill and Frank.
But,
And then that was it.
uh, well, yeah, yeah, Frank and Bill. Yeah,
Mhm.
I believe that was like episode 3 or 4,
Yeah.
somewhere in there. That is that how far you got?
Yeah. So, and I was almost a little confused because Tess, I guess, sacrificed herself, right? Because she got infected.
Yes,
And I
yes, yeah.
the dude was coming at her, and I
Mhm.
thought that she recognized him from her previous life or something, because when he came and just like put his mouth on hers, she just kind of let that happen. But then I guess she didn't.
Yeah, and saying that was another thing that they made original for the game. I mean, for the show because
Okay.
Tess actually, well, I don't know what the show's rating was, but Tess got shot. They shot her down in there. I don't know if they could see that she was infected, but yeah, when they came through, they laid her. Now they didn't show it. It's just you go into the next room and then you hear Tess scream and the gunfire. And I didn't know if that would have been too. It seemed like that show was. I can't remember the rating, but I didn't know if that would have, you know, pushed the rating to a higher one or whatsoever. But yeah, I didn't know what that was either.
Okay.
But yeah, the only thing that was kind of accurate to the nature was the fact that the cordyceps is a fungal infection. So
It's like
just
a hive mind, right?
hmm,
Is it like a hive mind? Like they're able to call each other?
so, that's a piece that could be added, but I'm not 100% certain if it's a hive mind. I just know that it's a fungal infection and it's kind of EU. It's not airborne, but definitely through touch or making contact with somebody's blood,
Hmm.
something of that nature. But you know what was funny about that? I'm not sure if you know that, but cordyceps is actually real. Yeah, but it infects only insects.
Well,
Yeah,
for now.
yeah, right. And that's kind of the thing. Like, damn, what if it evolves? But yeah, it turns actual insects into zombies. I've actually seen some YouTube of a I don't know what it was, but the body was kind of like was it like a beetle or a grasshopper? But it was like the head and the back was eaten through, but
Hmm.
it still had its legs and it was still walking and it had like the fungus growing out of it. I was like, wow,
Pretty
this
raw.
is some shit. Yeah.
It's pretty raw.
So yeah. But yeah, well, if you missed the boy and his little brother, that was a beautiful episode. Um the episode where Joel was beginning to care for Ellie and he started having panic attacks. Um, I directly related to that because of being a person that's kind of had so many bad experiences with attaching to people that weren't attached to me. And when I start caring about somebody and I didn't want to, but I'm having the panic attacks because my mind and my heart is at war, like I directly related to that.
Mm.
And Pedro Pascal, I'm gonna go on. I have to say this on camera, and this is coming from I played the game on PlayStation 3 and beat it like 3 times. Beat it like had like 8 times on the PlayStation 4, and then recently beat it on the PlayStation 5 remake. So Pedro Pascal's depiction of Joel to me is better than Joel, the original context of Joel,
Mhm.
because Pedro Pascal showed a little bit more emotion and things that made sense to
Mhm.
me from a person that has lost what he's lost than Joel in the game. It was like Joel in the game, they displayed him a little bit more cold, and Joel is cold, but at the point where he started caring for Ellie, they started showing him soften up. Like he had a discussion with his brother Tommy, and he was really breaking down in the tears and just saying like he felt like she would be safer with him And the way I read that was like he's really becoming attached to her and he wants her to be safe, but he also wants her away from him because he's getting too attached.
Hmm.
So it was like it was him trying to run from it and he was just having an emotional combustion inside.
Mm.
But then they actually had a discussion face to face because Ellie got wind of it and they were already, I think it was like, what's like 4 or 5 episodes in? So they
Mm.
were already had been together for a long amount of time. So she was happy to be with him. And she felt like she was throwing him away. And they had a face to face discussion. And discussion was a one of one from the game. And
Mm.
that actually brought me to real tears. But what was funny about it is that, hmm,
How old is Ellie?
so in the first game, later, she would have been 14.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
she would have been
Continue.
14. They also changed the time period um, to line it up kind of like with the pandemic because they said it, I think they started in 2003. Then they jumped 20 years later and came to 2023 when,
Because I felt like there was a massive time jump because I was like, things have
yeah,
really deteriorated in here.
yeah, yeah, they actually did. It was a 20-year time jump. It's a 20-year time jump in the game,
Uh-huh.
but the 20-year time jump is from 2013 to 2033.
Okay.
But I guess when I listened to the director talk about it, it was like they kind of wanted to line it up with like the pandemic because of the quarantine and things of that. And this is what's so funny about The Last of Us, the game itself. That subject matter was in the game in 2013. The infection starts. Nobody knows if it's airborne, if it's touchborne. Everyone's quarantined, this, that, and the third. And it's like coming full circle to the pandemic. It's like, bro, that game is a bit prophetic. You know, maybe we didn't turn into zombies, but there were people dying, and there was a massive point of confusion of is it breathe, is it touch? I
Mhm.
don't know. I don't feel safe going here. I don't feel safe leaving my house. So, but yeah,
Mm.
so
That life imitating art, huh?
it's my kind of shit.
I
Hey,
mean,
that was,
I'd prefer if it didn't in this case, but
yeah, because it makes your mind go. Let's not hope this doesn't happen tomorrow.
well, I guess it goes to show that however unlikely something is, it doesn't mean that it's impossible.
It also shows that life never stops being new.
Yeah.
Like I'm 40 and I sit up and think that there's been times in my 20s, my late 20s, mid 30s that I think that I've seen it all. And
Mm.
then something like the pandemic happens. And what was that? I was turning 38 that year. And it's like, I can't correlate anything else to that,
Hmm.
you know?
Now, were
And
there animals in this game, like wild animals?
so the animals that they had dogs in the second game,
Hmm.
and then they would show you go through like a wooded area and something might run off or you might see a dead animal, but they're not prevalent. But
Mm.
yeah, like they will show an animal here and there. So wish they should. That would have been interesting if they would have made it to where animals were infected and that was something that was another potential danger.
Mm.
But yeah,
I think it's just interesting in those kind of situations where it shows that life still goes on regardless of what's actually happening with humanity.
that's another thing that I love about The Last of Us because when the world is shut down and then when you're looking at the 20-year time jump, nobody's cutting grass and nobody's maintaining quote unquote nature. Grass is growing through the concrete.
Mm.
Grass, vines are covering tall buildings along the side. It's like nature is reclaiming Earth. Like that's so beautiful. It's a you can look at it like it's what's the post apocalyptic, but it's
Hmm.
like it's just people have to do a lot to keep nature in control so the roads don't cave in. And it's
Yeah.
like you have to maintain nature every day. If you're gonna fight with nature, you have to do it forever because, but at the end of the day, nature's still gonna win.
Well, and yep, that's a word right there.
Yeah.
That is a word right there.
So yeah. Is there anything else that kind of stood out to you? Did what did you end up liking with the little that you did watch?
It seemed very cinematic. It seemed like they took direct camera angles from the game and shot it in
Right.
that manner, which I
Mm-hmm.
thought was really interesting. Just because they would show like from behind the shoulder of the character looking at like the threat coming or something. And I thought that was
Right.
interesting. It wasn't always first person.
Right. Well, the game is actually third person, so that over the shoulder is kind of
Right.
normal. But yeah, the game is very cinematic. Like the game is the most like a movie. Well, let me not say that. I ain't gonna say it's more like a movie than any other game because Metal Gear Solids are like movies, and
Mm.
there are plenty of other titles that are like movies. But I think to me, The Last of Us is the one game that like after everyone plays it, they feel strongly about it.
Mm.
You know, that's kind of like the thing with that's why they turned it into a TV show, and I think that it was brilliant for them to go with the TV show format than trying to convert it to a movie
Yeah.
because you know the problem with those is you have a 10, 15, 20 hour and let it not be a 30-hour game and you're trying to condense it into 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's why a lot of those video game movies just don't work.
Yeah.
And with Last of Us specifically, why I was excited about it is the writer of the game, Neil Druckmann, who was hands on with the game on a daily basis, was hands on with the TV show on a daily basis.
Good.
You know, so that was, I said, okay, he's like, this is my story and I'm not going to let nobody mess it up.
Yeah.
And it definitely shows.
And I did hear that there was some rumblings about Ellie's character as far as her decision making, and people were really frustrated with her. And then they had to remember that she's still a child, so
Right.
she's going to act like a child, and apparently she did. So they
Yeah.
had to remember to give her grace in that way because this is the world that she's only ever known the world to be like this, right?
Right. Yeah. It's like she doesn't know what the regular world looks like,
Hmm.
you know, because her mom was, well, they showed in the show, her mom died from an infected,
Right.
you know, and yeah, she was just born into it, so she doesn't know what it's like to go to McDonald's, you know, or go get something to eat, or to live in a house. You know,
Yeah.
like even looking at how Bill lived, that would probably be like a culture shock because everybody lives in. Well, you know what? Let me take that back because in Jackson, and that's another thing too. They have Jackson in Last of Us One,
Hmm.
well in the show, but Jackson only showed up. Well, the way that it looked in the show is the way it looks in part two. Because
Gotcha.
I believe Jackson was that spot they went to in part one, but in part one that looked like more like a an oil field type of base. So that was a bit confusing.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, I heard
Yeah.
both actors played the hell out of their roles.
Yeah. The thing that was in question for me is I don't know that I have a friend that watches a lot of TV and said that both characters are from Game of Thrones. Because see, I knew Pedro Pascal from his role in Narcos.
Okay.
He played second fiddle to the blonde detective and then after they left Pablo Escobar, then Pedro Pascal was kind of like the lead guy, and I was like, this guy's a really good actor.
Mm.
But the little girl, I don't know her at all, but people say that she's from the Game of Thrones. I've never seen Game of Thrones, and
Yeah.
I don't know how old she actually is
Mm.
in playing a 14-year-old. So I don't know if that may have been the cognitive well, I ain't gonna say cognitive dissonance, but the disconnect between people perceiving her on screen and then looking at the decision making because they say she was one of the top dogs in Game of Thrones, so they're possibly expecting the same type of thing from
Got
her. And it's like, even though The Last of Us is her story, but
Hmm.
she's still a teenager and has to grow into carrying the story forward.
Well, I think that goes to show her range as an actress then, because if they're so used to seeing her in one role where she's like that girl to
Right.
become this young, naive girl in this other series, and it's kind of like messing with their mind. Well, that's what acting is, right? You're supposed to be able to take off one suit and put on a new one.
Should be that. Just a
Right.
lot of people. There's a lot of people that seem to prefer a person do the same thing over and over too in this world of where
Hmm.
everybody has an opinion because where everybody has a social media account and they can just write something that's out in the universe. And now it's like, oh, okay, well, here's a set of people that prefer the same thing over and over. So
Hmm. Well, I
yeah,
mean, I guess it's good that she probably won't be typecasted then, and she can go after all kinds of different roles.
Rose, right,
Mm.
right. But yeah, I think I really want you to get to the point where you see Henry and Sam.
Are those the kids?
Now, well, Henry and Sam is the it's a guy. He has a younger brother, and in the game for the show they made the little brother deaf.
Okay.
Um, and what was cool about that was everybody on set learned sign language
Mm.
uh, to communicate with him because I don't know if they said he was deaf in real life.
Okay.
But whatever it was, they definitely played it into the show. But in the game, he wasn't deaf. I thought that was a really cool thing.
Mm.
But yeah, it was an older brother and a younger brother, and they were surviving. It was almost like a mirrored look at Joel and Ellie, because they're trying to survive and make their way.
Hmm.
The difference is, the objective of Joel was to get her to was it Seattle. What was I forgot where they were going, but he was trying to get her to this point to where they can make a. I'm losing track of all my words. A cure, a potential cure for the infection. That was the whole reason for the journey. But they ended up loving each other along the way. And by the time Joel gets there, and he's so attached to her, it's like, you know what? Nah,
I remember
let's
that part in the
go.
game.
Mm-hmm.
They actually get her there to the facility and they're getting ready to do it. And they're like, well, she's going to die. And he was like,
And
oh,
he's
no,
like, oh no.
well, we're not
Right.
doing that.
That was what made the game connect so well because, and I just think with any great story, when the character's one way in the beginning, because he did not want any part of her at the beginning, and
Hmm.
then you get to the end of it, he's like he kills a whole hospital of people
A complete
just to get
one.
her back. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. That's character development.
hmm Well, I mean, outside of that, did you remember anything else stand out to you, or anything that you didn't like, or
I only know bits and pieces from the first game. And then I feel like I know about the same amount about the show.
uh,
Very spotty, but from what I have seen, Um, I've never heard anything bad about either one. Everyone that's played the game really enjoyed it. Everyone that's watching the show is really enjoying it, even if they had some nitpicky things here or there.
right?
Um,
Yeah,
this seems
it's
kind of like a downer, and I don't
so yeah.
know, like.
That's what I do want to put in context for the audience, in terms of like the subject, the content that we consume. Like on my end, I like consuming like the things that are science fiction set in reality, things that seem like they could really happen
Mhm.
because a lot of people I know they play games, watch movies and TV as an escape, and I've always been the opposite. I play, watch, and consume things like companion pieces to my reality. So for me, watching The Last of Us, it's giving me an idea. This is how I need to move in these circumstances as
Mhm.
opposed to getting lost in it. And I think you're more of the escape type, right? Because you like things that are the cutesy things, the imaginative things,
Mhm.
just for the viewer to understand why you didn't dive into it as deep as I did. Because I beat the game 10 times. I just couldn't get enough of it. You know
It
what I'm
just
saying?
looks scary to me. I also can't have things chasing me, and that's what clickers do. So.
And yeah, that's it is scary to think about,
Yeah.
but it's like the unfortunate thing is like I guess the way I grew up was scary because it's kind of I ain't gonna sit up and say that was like how it was growing up in the hood, but it's like yeah, you hear gunshots every night, and you're thinking one day you may get hit by a stray, even if you're just the person that likes playing with their toys and watching TV, and you'll see on the news that someone got hit by a stray bullet. And it's just you have to go to sleep, you have to live in a constant, perpetual state of paranoia. So a world like The Last of Us is not far removed from how I operate um, on a survival level.
I could see that. Like you're in a constant state of go.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter where I'm at. I see everything around me, and I'm always thinking to protect the person that I'm with.
Mm.
Even if we're just going out to have a dinner. But at the same time, you can look at the news and things happen. Some people tell me I'm over the top, and I'm like, turn the news on.
Yeah.
Turn on this one. Turn the news on. Guy goes into a grocery store with a body cam on and just starts laying people down. For
Mm.
what reason? So yeah, I just I hate to say it like that, but it's like it's not far removed from reality.
Right.
We've just been very fortunate for it to not be everywhere.
Yeah.
And but for the random people that had just say, hey, I gotta go pick up some milk and they didn't come home, you
Mm.
know.
Mhm.
So yeah. But yeah, I guess we can end it there. But definitely if you can try to get through it, what I like about stuff like that with the shows like my anime A Monster, even though it's very dark, when you really pay attention underneath it, it's just like life. You have all this ugly stuff that happens, but within it, you still have the beauty, like the connection of Joel and Ellie when they were pushing against each other at first, and it's like they still came together in all this turmoil. So it's a story of love.
Yeah.
Like I said, it has the blankets of the chaos under it, but underneath it, it's that little small heart that it's like the rose that grew from concrete concept. So that's how I can still connect to it. Because yeah, if it's just 100% dark and it's hopeless, it is kind of watch that. But it's just that little pinch that gets you through.
And so is it slated to have a season two?
Yeah, it's gonna have a few more seasons. Cause see, the first game was like I believe like 20 something hours, but the second game is like a easy 30, 35 hours, and then there's two sides that you have to follow. So it has to at least have three seasons because there's going to be a new character named Abby.
Okay, I
Uh,
did
and it,
watch him play the second game for the most part. So I'm
yeah,
kind of aware.
and that second season, May, is going to be very controversial, especially for people who don't know the game because something extremely unfan friendly happens, and we'll see how it translates in the TV world. But hell, that's probably years away,
Yeah, probably.
right? But that has been the discussion of The Last of Us. If you're in the well, if you have anything that you want to add in the comments, check it out. Just post it. I'll respond to it or whatsoever. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Just how did you feel about it? Just
And
let
do
us
you
know.
agree with the casting?
Did I agree with it? Yeah, I actually think the casting was cool. They had some weird choices because they changed a lot of ethnicities, and it's
Mm.
it's not so much about them changing the ethnicities. It's just that some stuff kind of goes all over the place when you have source material and then you bring it over here and it's like, oh, just like Joel's daughter. Um, Joel's
She was like a
daughter,
little mixed girl, right, or something?
yeah, and then Tommy and his wife were a mixed interracial relationship, and yeah, it's like I said, just for people who are purists, that stuff kind of gets lost in translation. But for me, I'm able to kind of, we looked at the Marvel movies and they made Nick Fury Samuel Jackson, and he's a white guy in the what you call it. But when people come through and they sell you on, it's like, okay, now I see you as this.
Right.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
All
All right,
right. Well, you guys let us know what you feel in the comments down below.
all right. Till next time, gooey and peace.